Ladies and gentlemen, the video that we've all been waiting for is finally here. Welcome to my official 2024 NBA Big Board. I've been sitting on this video for like 2 months at this point. I've had to re-record twice because for one thing, things change so quickly. Can't record a video back in February and have it still be up to date here in mid to late April. But for some of you guys who know me, the draft is my favorite part of the season every year. Even though it's not officially part of the season because it's in the off season, I just really enjoy going through college basketball, watching high school basketball while these guys are there, just scouting the newest crop of talent. For whatever reason, it's just something that I really enjoy. I've always really liked it. I got a lot to say about this class. What's up, guys? Welcome to the latest installment of By the Rim, your newest place for unbiased basketball media. And I'm really excited for today's episode. I love the draft, like I just said. I've been planning this big board for a while. I've updated it several times, and now I'm ready to officially release it to you guys here on YouTube. A couple quick things before we get started. I finally got a haircut. Super excited about that, man. I was growing my hair out for like 2 years. I didn't get a lineup or anything for the last like 2-3 months, and so I'm feeling clean, feeling fresh. That's always how it starts. But other than that, I think I'm only gonna do the first 15 or 16 or something players for this video, depending on how quickly it goes. I don't really want to take up too much time to record this video. So with that being said, we're finally gonna get into my 2024 NBA Big Board. First player on my 2024 NBA Big Board is gonna be Ron Holland. One thing that I've been thinking about Ron Holland this whole time is, how is he not the consensus #1 player? One thing that we know about this class is that it's considered very weak. There's not a lot of star talent in this class, right? So mind you, he's 18 currently and won't be 19 until I think after Summer League happens. So he's one of the younger guys in this class. Been playing in the G League for the last year. He averaged 20 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and he didn't shoot particularly well. His efficiency has been a topic of discussion. It's been one of his issues. He's also pretty turnover prone, but that kind of production is something that nobody else in this class has come even close to. One thing that I think will be his defining trait is the fact that his motor is absolutely off the charts. This dude can go, and that either works for his benefit or that works to his detriment. Let's say you just throw this kid in a game, he gets drafted wherever, you throw him into the game, he's gonna make something happen. One comp that I like for him, that's on like the medium lower end, is going to be Tari Eason. I really like Tari Eason. Most scouts like Tari Eason coming out of the draft. One thing about him that they all love is his motor and his activity. He just makes stuff happen all the time, whether that's rebounding, hustling on defense, loose balls, and then on top of that, Ron Holland is a pretty solid scorer. He's a good rim finisher. He's very, very athletic. I don't know if I want to put him in that elite athletic tier, like the Amen Thompsons or the Jonathan Kumingas of the world, but he's definitely a very good athlete, if not anything else vertically. But the major concern with Ron Holland is the fact that his jump shot is very suspect. Form looks fine. I don't think there's any mechanical issues with it, but shoots it at around a 24-25% clip, so that's not ideal. It's actually pretty bad. But again, 20 points a game in the G League as an 18-year-old, that can't be ignored. That kind of production is something we're not going to see from anybody else. Second player I have on my big board is going to be Alexander Sarr from the Perth Wildcats. He's a French big. At this point, I believe he's almost consensus #1 on majority of big sports writers' big boards. Me personally, I just can't put him there. Not only because I like Ron Holland more, but there's a lot more concerns that I have with Alex Sarr's game than I have with Ron Holland. On the season, he averaged just under 10 points a game, about 4.5 rebounds and assists, 1.5 blocks, which is really good. And for context, he played limited minutes. In the NBL, they want to play games to win. They're not necessarily there for development, like if he was playing at G League Ignite or if he was playing on a college team or a place where he is the main focus. He just happens to be one of the guys on the team, and he was playing in a role. That's why his stats and his minutes aren't as high as you would want, especially for someone considered the #1 pick. The thing that people like about Sarr is his mobility as a big. He's 7'1", let me remind you. Very mobile, very athletic. He can switch defensively. He can guard, I would say, 3 through 5 fairly comfortably. He can even switch out into guards. Offensively, there's a lot of untapped potential for him. He's got a decent handle. He can get up and down the court. He can pass fairly well. He's got the vision. He wants to make plays, even though it's something he's going to have to clean up as he gets, older, gets better. And also there's some shooting upside. He doesn't really want to hesitate on threes, which is good. He's got around like a 28% three-point rate, I believe. And so that's something that's encouraging, but he only shoots about 28% from 3, I believe. So there's a lot of room for improvement. tournament. For me, I have a lot of concerns with his offensive game. I think defensively he's going to translate. I think he's going to be a good role player in the NBA for a solid amount of time. But the offensive game, I have a lot of questions. His touch doesn't look great. His feel for the game is solid, but I don't think he's going to be a playmaker or anything like that. It makes me wonder what his offensive role is, especially if the jump shot doesn't translate. Again, he's a 28% shooter. If that never comes along and he's not a great finisher, he doesn't have great touch, that really hurts his offensive ceiling. I'm hoping that's something that will be improved and something he'll work on going forward. Number 3 on my big board is good old Rob Dillingham. I don't think I've ever done a shift on a player like I have for Rob Dillingham. I'll tell you this right now, coming out of high school, going into the college season, I hated him as a prospect. Obviously not as a person. I don't know him personally, and from what I've seen, he seems like a really great guy. As a prospect, I really did not like his play style. He's a 6'1", shifty shot creator, doesn't play defense. At the time, he was much more of a scorer than a playmaker, and for his senior year, he was playing over at OTE, where he shot like 33% from the field, and I'm like, this is not gonna translate into anything positive, especially at the NBA level. Like, at best, he's Bones Highlander, but that's even if he becomes a prospect at all. I thought he was gonna struggle at Kentucky. I've never been proven so wrong, and for that, I'm absolutely gonna put him at number 3. He's probably got best chance to be an all-star from this class, in my opinion. There's so many things that go forward, and like anybody can become a star, anyone can become a bust. It's hard for me to predict that, especially with this class, but Rob Dillingham is someone I would bet on. His game works, and that was something I had a lot of issues with in high school. On the season, he averaged around 15 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, shot almost 50% from the field, 45% from 3, about 80% from the free throw line. The production was there, and he was doing this off the bench. For the most part, his games were consistent. There wasn't a crazy amount of super hot and super cold games. For the most part, he was relatively even keel. Now, he had a couple duds, he had a couple of hot nights. That just comes along with the territory of being a freshman in these limited games. Coming off the bench, he was arguably their best player. Antonio Reeves, I would say, was definitely the best player for this team, but between Rob and Reed Shepard, who I'm going to talk about later, they were a really good bench duo. And honestly, I don't know why Calipari didn't decide to start one of or both of them in the first place. One thing that's still a concern for Rob Dillingham is his defense. I find it less concerning than you think. So when I watch the tape and I watch the games again, it seems like there's really something there for him to be a capable defender instead of the absolute negative that he was this year. A lot of it seemed to be due to effort, where he would just die on screens and then give up, or someone would get by him and he would just call it a day pretty much and just watch the guy go score or go make a move or something. And it was frustrating to watch in the moment, but I do think that in the NBA, as he gets older, as he gets stronger, I think he's going to put it together to be at least a capable defender. And upside-wise, I really think there's some Kyrie Irving in him. I know that's a long stretch, but I really hope that San Antonio Spurs can get a hold of a pick in his range and have him be available, because I think that's going to be the guy for them this draft. The 4th player I have on my board is Nicola Tobic from KK Mega and KK Zvesta out of Serbia. I don't know if I pronounced the team name right, but he's a Serbian guard. At one point, I had Nicola Tobic as my number 1 player in an earlier version of my big board. Due to some injuries and other guys kind of just getting better and making me more confident in them translating, I moved him down to 4. But that's not necessarily a bad thing for him. It's more of a good thing for those other players. But I like Tobic a lot. I think at worst, he's going to be he can still be a starting point guard. I do think there's a lot of upside for him. There's a lot of concern for that jump shot. The form is a little bit janky. There's also some other concerns defensively, but on the season he averaged around like 18 points, 4 rebounds, and like 7 assists, I believe. It was really good production, especially when he was down with Mega in the Adriatic League. But now he's been up with the Red Star in the Euro League, but unfortunately, he's been out for the last few months with an injury, and I don't know if he's going to be back for the EuroLeague season. But regardless of that, he's a 6'7" point guard. He's really quick. He's fast as hell, that's for sure. He's got a nice first step, and he's a ridiculous rim finisher. Like, I don't even know how to describe how good of a rim finisher he is. I believe he was in the 70s. Let me repeat that. He was in the 70s as a point guard on layups below the rim. He's not an above the rim guy. I don't even know if he had any dunks this season. I'm not gonna, don't quote me on that, but that's a guess that I'm making just from the games that I've watched. Nicola Tobic has been an excellent player, and there's a lot to like about him. I I think him as a pick and roll playmaker could be excellent for a team that wants to run a lot of pick and rolls. And a lot of Spurs fans have been like, oh, we want Topic as our guard. But for me personally, I think they should get more of a scoring like guard who can play kind of a combo like Rob, because Wemby is going to be that guy. Wemby is basically going to be the entire team for them. So I don't think Topic is right pick for them because there's a lot of concern with his shooting. It's not as bad as it could be because he's like an 86% free throw shooter. So there's a lot to work with, and there's also a lot to work on. So that's why I have him at number 4. At number 5, I got the National Freshman of the Year, Reed Shepard. 6'3" guard from Kentucky. I got a hot take, and I'm a little bit scared to say it because I've said it before and almost got crucified for it, but I legitimately think there's some Steph Curry upside for Reed Shepard. I know that sounds completely outlandish, but hear me out. The number one trait that both Reed and Steph Curry have, it's not the shooting, it's the hands. Reed Shepard has the best hands of a prospect that I've personally ever seen. It's not even remotely close. He's got insane coordination and instincts defensively, despite not being a plus level athlete, which also want to say he's not the negative athlete that people like to say that he is. His dad was bouncy. Reed Shepard can get up. I'll say that much. Do you know how athletic you have to be to block jump shots consistently? At 6'3", at 6'3", he's blocking jump shots on a regular basis. The only dude I've ever seen block jump shots like him is this guy. But his hands and his instincts are incredible, and that helps him both defensively and offensively. So he gets lots of steals without having to gamble too much. He can just poke guys away. He's got his hands in the cookie jar, and he knows when to try and go for steals and when to play safe defense. But he gets tons of steals. His steal rate was incredible. His block rate is ridiculous for a 6'3" unathletic guard. He averaged, I think, almost a block a game. 3 steals a game. And then when it comes to offense, his finishing is incredible. He shot like 53% from the field, 52% from 3 on the season on volume. This wasn't he shot 11 threes and made 6 of them. No, he just shot volume. He was putting those things up and he was making them. And he's a great rim finisher. You can't shoot 50, 50, 80 plus on accident. That doesn't happen. He's an absolute statistical anomaly in every single way. And it would absolutely blow my mind if he didn't become at least a good starter, if not an all-star in the future. And I know I have him at 5 compared to these other guys, but I'm taking into account the likelihood that they reach their ceiling, in my opinion, on top of where I actually think they're going to be drafted. So I kind of mix that in together, so that's why I have Reed as my number 5 player. Now, there are still some concerns defensively when it gets into the NBA. Because he's not super quick or athletic, he still isn't the best on-ball defender, but I think a team can scheme to put him off the ball and he'll still be capable because he's still a really good help defender. But again, that's why I have Reed as my number 5 player. Coming in at number 6, I got Stefan Castle, who actually, to somebody's surprise, was my number 1 player coming into this season. I liked him a lot because when I watched this game in high school and when I watched the McDonald's All-American game, I saw a lot of Cade Cunningham and college Markelle Fultz, who, if you guys don't know, Markelle Fultz was absolutely my favorite prospect I've ever seen. I love the guy. I love his story, all that stuff. I just really like Markelle Fultz. And when I heard that and I started seeing it, I'm like, there's something here. My thought process behind that was every number 1 pick for the last like 5 or 6 years has been an oversized playmaker who can be a primary scorer and is at least a relatively decent two-way player. So that's kind of the bar, you know. So Wemby, anomaly, but oversized, a point guard essentially, who can play make and obviously play defense. Paolo, 6'10" point guard basically. Two-way, not so much. Cade Cunningham, 6'7" point guard, decent defender, great playmaker. 2020, Anthony Edwards, 6'5", big body, playmaking shooting guard. 2019, Zion, 6'7", essentially big body point guard. And then 2018, we had DeAndre Ayton. So that's where the trend ended. 2017, Markelle Fultz, 6'5", playmaking point guard. Like I said, there's been a trend, and I thought Stefan Castle was going to fit into that mold as a 6'7", playmaking two-way point guard. But after watching him in college, I actually like him a little bit more because, like we said, this class is very weak, so we don't know where the upside lies for these guys. But I know now that Stefan Castle will be able to minimize his role and play in a more condensed area as a wing, on top of having the upside as a shot creator, which, by the way, he was a scorer in high school, like a bucket getter scorer, not just, oh, he got a lot of points. He was a real bucket getter. And in college, they totally kind of took him out of his strengths as a playmaker, and he somehow still excelled in a smaller role. I like him a lot. Probably the best wing defender in this class right now. I got Stefan Castle at number 6. At number 7, I got Matas Buselis from the G League Ignite. 6'10" wing. The main appeal with him is obviously his mobility, so he can move essentially as a guard. He was listed as a 6'10" shooting guard for most of his high school years, which is wild, but he's got some offensive creativity. He can play make, he can pass fairly well, he can score on the perimeter and as a finisher, and so there's a lot of versatility that comes with Matas Buselis. I like his game, but one of the big concerns that I had coming into the year and during the year was that he wasn't an alpha pretty much in any way, and that was kind of concerning, especially as a guy who was originally mocked as the #1 pick, I believe, in the first installment of the mock draft. Recently, I've seen a lot more dog from him that I like. When he called out Zachary Rizache, that was pretty cool because I didn't expect that. I don't think I've ever seen that before. He straight up called him out. Matas wants to smoke, and if he could back it up, that could really boost his stock, because someone's gonna see them like, oh, he's really like that. Again, his best strengths were supposed to be his shooting, but he shot like 25% from 3 on the season. That's why his stock has tanked a little bit, and now he's around the 7-8 range for me, and he might get drafted higher than that, but as of now, I got him down there. Defensively, he holds up. He's not as mobile as guys might want him to be, but he blocks shots still really well for a wing because he's 6'10", but there's a lot of Franz Wagner in his game, and especially in his movement patterns, which I had said like a year and a half ago. Everybody's copying, but hey, I said it first. But again, Matas Buselis, I got him at number 7. Definitely could rise. I like him, but for now, this is where I got him. At number 8, I got a big surprise for you guys. I got Bub Carrington from Pitt. 6'5" guard. At this point, he's more of a combo guard, but I think he's going to be the best player in this draft. I'm gonna say it right now. I think he's going to be the best player in this draft. And this is why. When I watch him play, his movement style, his play style, it reminds me a lot of Tyrese Halliburton. Coming out of college, Tyrese Halliburton was a 2-year player. Personally, I think Bub should go back to school. I think he should stay in college and really improve his second year. I think he could be a top 5 pick. But this year, he struggled with efficiency. He very rarely got to the rim. And defensively, his numbers are not very good. So that makes you wonder, wait, why would you put him in the top 10 then if he was bad on offense and bad on defense? Well, let me tell you, when you watch him play, he just makes stuff happen. His pick and roll passing is incredible. It's on par with Tyrese Halliburton. That's why I gave him that comp. I remember watching the very first 2 or 3 games. By the way, he recorded a triple-double in his debut game as a freshman, who, mind you, is supposed to be a senior in high school right now. So his passing is excellent. He rebounds really well. The 6'5" guard with long arms. I think there's a lot to like. So the main issue with him is that his efficiency was poor. You know, as a freshman, taking a lot of pull-up jump shots because he had a lot of struggles getting to the rim. I don't say getting to the rim, but his rim finishing was not good. He didn't take very many shots at the rim. He loved to operate in the mid-range and around the 3-point line. And during the middle of the season, he really showed with his efficiency. But towards the end of the year, he started to pick it back up, and I think he finished the year shooting 32% from 3. Not great, only 41% from the field. Shoots almost 80% from the free throw line, so there is hope. But I got this gut feeling that he's going to be the best player from this class as long as he stays. And I still think that next year, if he comes back to school, he will be a top 5 pick. At number 9, I got Dalton Connect. 6'6", 6'7" wing from Tennessee. It's a 5th-year senior, so a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, he's older, so his upside's not that great. But he averaged 22 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. He was a 40% 3-point shooter, a 78% free throw shooter. There's a lot to like. His production was incredible. Not only was he playing off the ball, but a lot of his stuff was self-created out of isolation, which you really like to see. And we've seen older guys who ended up being good players, but again, this draft class is weak, so you can afford to take these guys higher than you might in a good draft class. But the season, Dalton Connect was really good. Again, 20-point per game guy, almost most of his stuff being self-created. Like teams in that late lottery, that's where he's likely to be drafted in my opinion. But like if you need a scorer or a shooter, Dalton Connect is probably the best option for you if you want to be in the playoff race coming up soon. He's got some concerns about his defense. It's not great. I wouldn't bet on him to be a good defender either, but if you have a good defensive team and you just need more of an offensive punch, again like the Orlando Magic, if they somehow manage to trade into Dalton Connect range, he's the guy they should be taking. At number 10, I got Cody Williams, the younger brother of Jalen Williams, 6'8" wing from Colorado. I like Cody Williams a lot, and I liked him a lot coming into the draft. I said during last year's McDonald's All-American game that I thought Cody Williams would be the number 1 pick. At this point, that's probably not going to happen, but I think a lot of people are overthinking him in many different ways. On the season, he averaged like 12.5 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. He shot like 60% from the field and 40+% from 3. He was not a great free throw shooter, only shooting like 70-ish%. One thing I will say is I do not think he is as good of a shooter as his percentages said. But the thing I like about Cody Williams is he knows what he's good at and he does not deviate from it. So more willing to step out of their comfort zone. But again, this class isn't that strong. So when you're looking for role players, I think Cody Williams will be really good at what he does. So the comp that I give him is Jaden McDaniels, because he came in as a Kevin Durant clone, but ended up now being a really good 3-point shooter and an amazing defender. And I think that's what Cody Williams can be. He's got wingspan for days. He's the tallest looking 6'8" I've ever seen in my life. And on top of that, he moves really well. He can guard up and down the line. I think he can guard point guards. And I think once he gets stronger, he'll be able to guard fours as well. And one thing I will say is that his draft stock, I don't think has anything to do with his brother. His brother is all-star trajectory right now. And it looks like within the next 2 years, he's going to make a team. I don't think they're even remotely similar as prospects. Cody has gotten this far on his own merit, and I think he deservedly should be a top 10 pick. My number 11 player, I got Zachary Rizache. Now, real spiel, man, I do not like this dude as a prospect. He's been so divisive for me all throughout the last couple of years. When I first saw him, I'm like, there's nothing impressive about this guy. Then I went to the Nike Hoop Summit last year, and I watched him, like, I like the way this guy defends. He moves his feet well, he plays hard. He wasn't great offensively, but, like, he was passing as well. Like, I liked what I saw last year. And then this year, I've seen him play, and it's like he started the season off disgusting. Like, I think he was averaging, like, 14 points, 4 rebounds, and assists. He was shooting, like, 60, 50, 70 or something like that. But in the last couple of months, now, mind you, he's had a face injury, so there is some context there, but he's been shooting like 30% from the field and 21% from 3 and like 50% from the free throw line, so his numbers have just tanked. But on the season, he's still at like 10 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, still like 46% from the field and almost 40% from 3, so there's still definitely something there. His passing ability is still very intriguing. I'm definitely curious about what he could become, but I'm not willing to bet on him becoming a high upside player. I think at best he's going to be a decent 3-point shooter who's also a decent defender who can move the ball, at least at this rate, but I don't see him hitting his ceiling that some people think he can be, like a shot creating wing at 6'10". Like, I just don't see that at all. But he's still worth a lottery pick no matter how inconsistent he may be or whatever's happening in his season. So I will keep him in at number 11. At number 12, I got Donovan King, 7'2" big from UConn. I cannot buy into the hype that everyone is trying to put on this guy. I've seen him ranked at number 3. That doesn't make sense. Why would you draft Walker Kessler, but worse, at number 3? Even if the draft is weak, that's not worth the value that you could be giving up. Not even just giving up, but he's just not worth that to me. But I don't want to be a hater because he is still a good player and I like him, but he should not be anywhere close to the top 5. As a prospect, I'd still do like Donovan King as a pick and roll big, as a drop big, I should say, because he does move his feet fairly well and he just gets his hands on a lot of shots. He's good at contesting. Watching that national championship game, I was fairly impressed seeing how he guarded Zach Edey. So I think Zach Edey still had like 20 points on him throughout the game, and then the other 17 came against Samson Johnson. But Donovan King does a good job holding his own in the paint. I have a lot of offensive concerns, and that's the reason why I can't put him any higher, because his touch around the rim is terrible. If you've watched, he has absolutely 0 left hand. His right-handed hook shot isn't great either. He doesn't even have one. He misses a lot of easy layups as well, which is super concerning, especially at 7'2". And he's not very good vertically. He's not really even a lob threat. Like, obviously you could throw lobs to him because he's 7'2". and he's not a bad athlete, but he just doesn't get up like that. So you have to throw it very specifically into a certain spot, or else he's not going to be able to get it, or he's going to have to grab it and bring it down instead of just finish the play. Like, I know that's kind of nitpicking, but that's definitely a concern at the NBA level. Defensively, I think he'll be fine. Brook Lopez has managed to become almost a depoy candidate playing the way that he has, and I still think Donovan King is more mobile than Brook Lopez and more capable of a hedge defender at the very least. I think Donovan King is worth a mid-first round pick, so that goes anywhere from, I will say, 10 to 20. At number 13, I got Jared McCain. He started off the season as more of a fringe first round prospect, but the way he played in March, on top of throughout the entire season, like, there's no reason he should not be at least in the conversation as a lottery pick, in my opinion. His shooting splits were incredible. He shot well over 40% from three. He's a great rebounder at 6'3". He might be 6'4" now. It looks like he's gotten a little bit taller, but he's really strong, and that's a super underrated attribute for these undersized and less athletic guards, I'll say, is that they're really strong, because Jared just moves people when he goes to the rim. He's a great rebounder, both off of the box outs and chasing the ball, and like offensively, there's a lot more to his game than what he got to show at Duke. Because again, playing off of both Jeremy Roach and Tyrese Proctor, someone's got to take that backseat. Because he's such an excellent shooter, both off the dribble and off the catch, it had to be him, on top of being a freshman, and he absolutely excelled in that role. Like I said with Stefan Castle, the fact that he was able to minimize his role and still excel shows me that there is a lot to like about Jared McCain. Because in high school, he was a scorer. He played for a really good team, so there wasn't all the touches, but he averaged like 20 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists still as a point guard. Again, playing a point guard. So him coming into college and being an off-ball shooter who was absolutely lethal throughout the whole season. And then in March, he just turned it up. He had 2 30 balls. He had a couple of double-doubles with rebounds. He still showed that his passing ability is absolutely there, even if he only averaged about 2 assists a game. Because again, playing off of 2 other point guards. I think he really did the best thing that he could do in his time at Duke, and I think he should be rewarded with a lottery pick. At number 14, I got Kyle Filipowski, a teammate of Jared McCain at Duke. 6'11" big. Kyle Filipowski has been a super weird prospect to me because I liked him a lot last year, but after watching him this year, I somehow have even more questions. On the season, he averaged like 17 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks. He shot like 50% from the field. His 3-point percentage seemed a little bit suspect, and then he shot under 70% from the free throw line. So the shooting is still very concerning to me. That was something that I thought was going to be a strength of his, but it ended up being more of a question mark than I anticipated. But defensively, the surgeries on his hip seem to have helped because last year he averaged less than a block a game, but he was playing off of Derek Lively defensively. But this year he's up to about 2. So there's clearly something there as a rim protector, not necessarily as an above the rim protector, but more in the NBA level, like kind of a body. I think there's levels of Sabonis in his game, as well as some like Kyle Kuzma. I know that sounds random, but I think Kyle Filipowski is more of a ball handler than Sabonis is, obviously. And so I think he can operate as like an offensive hub almost, as at least as a backup unit right now. If he does end up being a lottery pick, I think they'll let him get more touches. You will be able to kind of run a second unit if you have more scorers than playmakers. There's more concern about Kyle Filipowski like turning into a high upside player rather than him as just a role player. And so I think he's still worth a lottery pick, and so I have him at 14 on my big board. And at number 15, I got Jacoby Walter, who had a really up and down season this year. 6'5" guard wing from Baylor. At the start of the year, I think I had him top 5, but as the year has gone on, there's a lot of concerns that I have with him. Like, the efficiency was terrible this year. He started the season off really good, shooting over 40% from 3 and like 90% from the free throw line. As Big 12 play went on, he really struggled. On the season, he was like 15 points a game and like 4.5 rebounds. Solid defender, I'll give him that. He shot like 38% from the field and only 34% from 3. Not what you want to see, but he was about an 80% free throw shooter, so that's good. And his free throw rate is crazy for a guy who is primarily a jump shooter. I think he shot like 6 or 7 free throws a game. Don't quote me on that. I haven't looked up the stats, but he was really good at getting to the free throw line, which could be a translatable skill. I think there's a lot of similarities between him and Keontae George last year. It seems like these Baylor guards have a rough freshman year, and then they come into the league much better than we anticipated. So that's why I'm holding off on dropping him lower than 15. But again, the efficiency is still concerning, but It's not the end-all be-all because he was playing in a role. There's still a lot of hope for him to be more of a scorer than he has been. But with that being said, I think that's where I'm going to end the video. This is my top 15 players in my 2024 big board. Next video is going to be part 2, so you're going to get the rest of the guys. Again, this class isn't particularly strong at the top, and there's a lot of concern even within the depth. We might legitimately be looking at one of the worst draft classes ever, if not the worst, in honesty. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of By the Rim. Like always, I'm Collin, and I do really want to thank you guys for taking your time to watch my videos. Starting slow, but I'm excited to keep growing, and thank you guys who've been sharing my videos, the friends who watch them. I really do appreciate it, and if you like it, leave a like, subscribe. I gotta start doing this. Tell your friends, tell anybody who's interested. Really appreciate you guys for taking your time to listen to me. Have a good one.